Our Earth is a wonderfully warm and vibrant place. But it has not always been this way. In the very distant past, our world has gone through periods of intense cold, known as ice ages. An ice age is not just a very long winter. It is a time when the entire planet's temperature drops significantly for thousands, even millions, of years. During these times, huge sheets of ice, like enormous frozen rivers called glaciers, grow from the poles. They slowly, but unstoppably, spread across continents, covering mountains, valleys, and even entire countries in a thick white blanket of ice. This is not a sudden event, but a gradual cooling that transforms the face of our planet. Imagine a world where summer is just a little less cold than winter. The sun is still in the sky, but its warmth doesn't quite reach the surface as it does today. Over many, many years, the snow that falls in winter doesn't completely melt in the summer. Each year, a new layer of snow falls on top of the old one. This snow gets heavier and heavier, and the pressure from the top layers squashes the snow at the bottom, turning it into dense, solid ice. This is how a glacier is born. And as the planet continues to cool, these glaciers start to move, inch by inch, carving the land as they go and changing everything. These great freezes are a natural part of Earth's long history. They are caused by small, slow changes in our planet's orbit around the sun and the tilt of its axis. These subtle shifts can alter the amount of sunlight that different parts of the Earth receive, tipping the climate into a colder state. It is a powerful reminder that our planet is a dynamic and ever-changing system. We live in what is technically an interglacial period, a warmer spell between two colder periods. The last great ice age ended only about 11,700 years ago, which is a very short time in the long story of our Earth. Understanding this history is key to appreciating the world we have today. The very landscape we see around us, from the Great Lakes in North America to the fjords of Norway, was sculpted by the immense power of ice during the last ice age. The glaciers acted like giant bulldozers, moving rocks, carving out valleys, and leaving behind hills and lakes. They shaped the world we know, and the possibility of their return, however distant, makes us think about the incredible forces that govern our planet. It is a story written in ice, a story of immense power and slow, profound change. If a new ice age were to begin, the first thing we would notice is a dramatic change in our weather. The seasons we know would start to blur. Summers would become shorter, cooler, and wetter, feeling more like a mild autumn. In many parts of the world, people would find themselves needing to wear warm jackets even in July or August. The winters, on the other hand, would grow longer, harsher, and much, much colder. Snow would start to fall earlier in the autumn and linger much later into the spring, covering the ground for most of the year. This would be the new reality for millions of people. The patterns of wind and rain across the globe would also be completely transformed. The huge, growing ice sheets at the poles would act like giant weather machines. They would push cold, dry air down towards the equator, creating powerful and persistent winds. This would make storms more frequent and more severe in some regions, while other areas, which are currently lush and wet, might become incredibly dry. For example, the Amazon rainforest could shrink as weather patterns shift, and the Sahara Desert might receive more rainfall. The world's climate would become a place of extremes, unfamiliar and unpredictable. One of the most significant changes would be the drop in sea level. As more and more of the Earth's water gets locked up in the massive ice sheets, the oceans would recede. Coastlines would change dramatically. Islands might become connected to the mainland, and new lands that have been underwater for thousands of years would emerge. We could, in theory, walk from Britain to France, or from Siberia to Alaska, across dry land. This would create new opportunities for migration, but it would also completely alter our maps and our understanding of the world's geography, presenting new challenges for coastal communities. This colder world would also be a drier one overall. With so much water frozen as ice, there would be less moisture in the atmosphere to form clouds and rain. Many of the world's great rivers would shrink, their flow reduced because their mountain sources would be permanently frozen. This would have a huge impact on farming and the availability of fresh water for drinking. The once reliable rhythms of nature, the annual floods that nourish farmlands and the steady flow of rivers that sustain cities, would be disrupted. The planet's entire water cycle would slow down, caught in the grip of the encroaching ice. For the planet's plants and animals, a new ice age would be the ultimate test of survival. Life has an incredible ability to adapt, but this change would be immense. Many forests that thrive in temperate climates like the oak and maple woodlands of Europe and North America, would slowly disappear. As the cold crept south, these trees would be unable to survive the long, harsh winters. In their place, vast grasslands, known as steppes, and hardy coniferous forests, like the taiga of Siberia with its pine and fir trees, would dominate the landscape. These plants are built for the cold, with needles instead of broad leaves to conserve water. Animals would face a stark choice: adapt, move, or perish. Many species would migrate towards the warmer regions near the equator. We would see vast herds of animals like deer and bison undertaking long seasonal journeys in search of food. Other animals might adapt in remarkable ways. We would likely see the return of creatures with features suited for the cold, similar to those from the last ice age. Think of animals growing thicker fur coats, like the woolly mammoth, or larger bodies to retain heat more effectively. Predators like wolves and bears would need to learn to hunt in these new, open and snowy environments. In the oceans, life would change just as dramatically. With cooler water temperatures, some marine animals, like certain types of fish and whales, might thrive and expand their ranges. Coral reefs, however, which depend on warm tropical waters, would face a catastrophic decline. They would bleach and die, and the incredible biodiversity they support would be lost from those regions. The changing sea levels would also destroy many coastal habitats like mangrove forests and salt marshes, forcing the creatures that live there to find new homes or face extinction. The entire marine food web would have to reorganize itself. Even the smallest creatures would have to find ways to endure. Insects might develop a type of natural antifreeze in their bodies to survive being frozen solid during the winter. Many smaller mammals like marmots and squirrels would rely on hibernation, sleeping through the coldest months to conserve energy when food is scarce. It would be a world where only the most resilient and adaptable forms of life could succeed. The planet would look quieter, perhaps less colorful, but life, in its tenacious and wonderful way, would undoubtedly find a way to hold on, showcasing nature's incredible power of endurance. For humanity, an approaching ice age would mean fundamentally changing the way we live. Our modern cities, with their reliance on complex networks for power, water, and food, would face enormous challenges. In colder regions, buildings would need to be redesigned with much thicker insulation to keep the cold out. We might even see cities built partially underground to use the earth itself as a natural insulator against the freezing temperatures. Growing food would become a primary concern. Traditional outdoor farming would become impossible in many areas, so we would have to turn to massive indoor, vertical farms, using artificial light and hydroponics to grow crops year-round. Life in the countryside would also be transformed. Communities in rural areas would need to become incredibly self-sufficient. With global supply chains broken, people would have to rely on local resources. Hunting and fishing would become more important, and people would need to rediscover old skills for preserving food to last through the long winters. New types of architecture would emerge, with homes designed to maximize heat from the sun and protect against relentless winds. Communities would likely become smaller and more tightly knit, as people would have to work together closely to survive, sharing resources and knowledge. Energy would be the most precious resource of all. Our current power grids would be strained by the incredible demand for heating. We would have to innovate, developing more efficient geothermal energy systems that tap into the Earth's natural heat from below the ice. Nuclear power might also become more widespread as a reliable source of energy that is not dependent on weather. Every aspect of life, from transport to communication, would need to be re-engineered to function in extreme cold. It would push human ingenuity to its absolute limits, forcing us to create solutions we can barely imagine today. Yet, through all this immense challenge, there is a powerful message of hope. Humanity is, above all, an adaptable species. We have survived ice ages before, armed with little more than stone tools and fire. Our greatest strengths are our intelligence, our ability to cooperate, and our unyielding spirit of innovation. Faced with such a profound change to our world, we would undoubtedly come together, share our knowledge, and find new ways to not only survive, but to thrive. A frozen Earth would be a daunting world, but it would also be a world that could bring out the very best in us.